Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. I'm your host, Viz, and it is my honor tonight to welcome the man behind the devil makeup in Haunt, Damian Maffei. Damian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing good. I swear, I still cannot. When we met 2 weekends ago and we were talking at your table at Fear Fest, I picked up your picture as the devil, and I'm like, this cannot be you. I'm like, they did such a scary ass job. And a couple of days ago, I had Hannah Fearman on my show, who, by the way, corrected me on the pronunciation of your last name. So it's Maffei. I'm like, okay, cool. Because I was like saying it Maffei, Damian Maffei. She's like, no, it's Maffei. I'm like, okay, well, that's good to know. Uh,
Glad they're fighting for me.
Hannah was like, he has such a pretty face. I can't believe they destroyed it with that makeup. But I got to tell you, that makeup was scary as crap. How long did it take you in that makeup chair putting the makeup on for Haunt?
It was about 3 hours to put that on every day.
And how many days did you have to put that makeup on to shoot?
Not too many. Not too many. 4 or 5, I think. Um, Anytime I had the mask, the devil mask on, I didn't have the makeup on,
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
until the reveal, and then got hung up on all my you know piercings and whatnot. Um, yeah, but it's about 3 hours. But it was a breeze because um, Chris and Hugo, the makeup guys, they're just wonderful, just really fantastic, and they made it very easy and let me take a break if I needed it to, and they were very entertaining. So it was enjoyable.
So
It was
tell us
enjoyable.
what.
That sounds cool. I mean, I've been huge horror fan all my life, so to watch it being put on me, even after the first time, it was very cool to be a part of.
It's a great movie, and I explained to you the backstory on how I came across it. We'll talk about that in a bit. I just want to ask you, when you saw the final product of the movie after edited, ready to go for the audience, what were your feelings on the overall movie itself?
Uh, you know, that was an interesting experience because I mean I was very isolated from everyone else. The only really, I mean, the only person I did anything with was Katie Stevens Harper,
Mm-hmm.
uh, outside of the other guy Andrew at the start. So it was really just me and Katie the whole time. So I really had no idea what was going on or how things were going away from me. So it was really when I did see it, it was kind of going in fresh. I mean, I had read the script, but um, it was all very, it was not like The Strangers. I was there every day on set. This I was just there for my stuff. So it was I mean I knew Scott and Brian were wonderfully talented, and everyone that I'd come into contact with was, I mean, it was just a very talented, good group. But I mean, it was far exceeded what I was expecting. Um,
Absolutely. It was a great
really,
movie.
it's like a slasher movie, and I mean, I know slasher movies, and when you got a bunch of young folks, heading into trouble, you're gonna have some shoddy dialogue, some annoying characters, people are gonna grate on you. Happens every time. I did not experience that with Haunt, which is really a credit to the actors and the directors. And yeah, I mean, I really have a genuine affection for Haunt as a viewer, and being a part of it, but as a horror fan.
Absolutely. And I told you the story and how I came across the movie. I was just sitting down, wanted to watch a good old paranormal movie, came across this movie called Haunt. I'm like, all right, haunted house, attraction, turns out to be haunted. I've seen this trope a million times, but let's give it a try again. And it totally was not what I expected. I loved the end product. When you first read the script, being a horror fan, as you described, did you
Right.
immediately love the story?
It was, it's kind of I had a similar experience to, what I hear from those watching it is that you know, I like the depth of Harper, but I was, I was interested because when I read the script, I knew that they wanted me to play one of the villains.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't really set on who at that point, but I was like, where are these people going? Are they, just going to be, silent killers, whatever? So it was very cool. That was a script. Every now and then you get one where you just kind of get lost in reading it, kind of forget that you're reading it, as a project to be considered for. But I just enjoyed reading it, and it kind of went in unexpected places for me. So that was one where I was finished, and I was like, oh wow, well, that. I mean, it's definitely a slasher film, but it's got some
Well,
heart there and some twists and turns.
that's the weird part of this movie. It's very hard to classify. It is a little bit of a slasher.
Yeah.
So it has some psychological thriller slash horror in there as well. Uh, Cult. You can definitely bring in the cult aspect. It's
Mhm.
like a mixture of a lot of different genres. And for me, uh, as a fan of the movie and while I was watching it, I honestly don't know what main subgenre to place it under. What would you place it under? And when it comes to the horror subgenres, primarily.
I mean, I would classify it in slasher. Um, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
I think it just. I mean, there is some psychology, some psychological, menace in there. But I think slasher film. I'd be interested to. I don't think that conversation came up with Scott and Brian. I'd be interested to see what they say. They'd probably call it a slasher film.
okay. All right. Now, the group, you are the leader of this group, okay? We had this discussion as well. Are they a cult? Are they not a cult? We know by one scene in the movie, one of your members is trying to. I guess the way your group operates is the more sinister deeds they do, they get extra deformities added to their face.
You
Uh,
earn your stripes.
Exactly, exactly. And there was this one person who was unmasked from your group,
Yeah.
and he said that he's just trying to earn his stripes, basically, like you
Right.
said.
I would say clown is probably the one in charge. At least that's how I read it. I don't know if that came up. Well, you know what? There was a scene, as far as I can recall, there were not many scenes that didn't make it in. Um, but there's one scene that I really kind of was sad to see go, and it takes place in kind of like the back area, where all the baddies are, and Clown is commanding everyone to go, do things and clean up and tie up the loose ends, and they're destroying evidence and whatnot. And they him and the ghost quickly discuss that you know there's still two stragglers running around,
Yeah,
and they're wondering where I am, like what I'm doing. And it's like, him, he just does his own thing. So it's like Clown. So from that scene, and I really liked it because I was like, yeah, this is why I like the devil so much, is because he's kind of like this just rogue shark. So I mean, like Clown to me was the one in charge, but the devil was like is the alpha of the group. He's
yeah,
the kind of they're all a little more afraid of than the rest.
yes. And we could
And
tell, obviously. Oh, sorry, go on.
and when I read the script, because I think when I first started talking to them about it, they were interested in me doing the ghost
Okay.
myth. And when I read the script, I I really liked the devil, and there's a little less dialogue, but there was just something about it, about him and his death in it. He's the first one to die, but it kind of like changes everything.
It does.
Changes, where everything, it's like right after that, like Harper has beat the big bad, and then the rest of it is just like smooth sailing. So it's kind of the tables turn when the devil is taken out.
Yeah.
And I like,
Let's go to the ending without giving it away. The way the ending was played out in the movie, uh, it left no real chance. I mean, they could always do it for this possibly turning into a sequel, because apparently all the members of the group are dead. They're gone. And we see, her extracting her revenge and was fully ready for that last surviving, baddie to come after her, and she took him out. Do you like the way the ending was done, or would you have liked to leave it open ended for at least one member to have survived and possibly build a new group again to continue on what was started, with the other group?
oh, if it's not my character, I mean, I don't give a shit. The hell do I care what they do? Um, no, I do like the ending. I did like that. I know that Scott and Brian, the writers and directors of it, are not big fans of them being a part of sequels. I think
Okay.
they enjoy sequels, but they themselves have never shown any interest in it. Like, I remember there was a thing that came out that they were meeting with like Lucas Film or whoever runs things over there, about maybe doing a Star Wars entry or Indiana Jones entry, and they weren't interested. They kind of want to do their own thing. So like start something and let someone else run with it. So I don't think they're against another Haunt entry because they wrote A Quiet Place, and then I think they ducked out. They're on to something else.
Yeah.
So
You totally got
I
to
mean,
respect that. Yeah.
it's horror movies. So if someone wants to make a sequel of something,
There's a way to do it.
when has it ever stopped?
Exactly.
Especially,
Exactly. Yeah.
especially
Exactly.
you just piece together. You can just scoop up the devil's head and just put it back together and trot them back out there.
Well, not
But
only that, they can go the prequel route as well and bring you back for
yeah,
that.
yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
like, I had a lot of fun doing that. Like probably a little too much fun. I think I felt bad for having so much fun. Like, well, we were shooting that on Halloween. It was great. It was a good group.
I assume
Uh,
I assume you did this pre-COVID.
oh yeah, oh yeah. No, that was I think it was like 2017. I think
Okay.
it was. I think I shot that the same year I did the Strangers movie.
All right. Well, speaking of the strangers, let's move on to that for a little bit. Now, can you
Okay.
tell us how working with John Wagner led you to becoming that masked man in The Strangers?
John Wagner. Um, yeah, yeah. I met John Wagner on a movie called Closed for This Season, which was 2008,
Uh huh.
maybe. And that was in Ohio. That movie. Um, that was in an abandoned amusement park in Ohio. It was Chippewa Lake Park. It had been abandoned for 30 years. It's an incredible location. And that was John's first producing job. He was a line producer on that. He was, right out of college there. Um, so, I just, we were out in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, in this park. Um, we just kind of like got along. Sometimes you meet someone and you just instantly get along with them. And, it was, we were singing, like Kiss songs out in the middle. That was like this park. It was like everything was overrun with leaves and trees and stuff, and there was a tree growing up through the Ferris wheel. It's incredible. So it was just very surreal. John's someone who I got along with immediately, and we kind of kept trying to do things, projects after that. They'd fail, as they tend to do, and then he directed a short film called Wildfires, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
He cast me as the lead in that. We filmed that in California, and then a couple more failed attempts, and then he produced the movie Cheap Thrills.
Okay.
With, Pat Healy and Ethan Embry. Really fun little flick. Then he went and did Starry Eyes with our friend Dennis and Kevin. Their feature debut, which is great. So he started to make a little name for himself there in indie horror. And then I remember when he called me. I was out in an outlet mall, and he told me he was producing Bone Tomahawk. And I was like, whoa, are you kidding me? Like, I've been waiting for Bone Tomahawk for years. Like Kurt Russell, Richard Jenkins, like Cannibals. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, God, you lucky bastard. That was like a huge thing. We had, not been involved in, probably like $150,000 was probably the highest budget we had been on. So that was a big deal for him. And, I was very happy for him. And then, one day he called me up and he said, I'm doing the Strangers sequel. And I was like, oh, wow. It's been 10 years since that. Cool. Like, what do you want? And he said, how do you feel about playing the bad guy in it? And I was like, got the fucking bag on his head? What do you want me to do that? But that I'm very high on myself as an actor. You think I want to run around the woods with a bag on my head? Like, that's not, like, I'll be miserable. Like, this isn't acting. I'm an actor. Theater. But he was like, I love horror movies, and that was something where I would go above and beyond for it. He knew that. So he really pushed for it. He pushed me for it. He sent me the script. And I thought the script was a lot of fun. And there was one scene in there, the man in the mask and the father in the van. And I read that scene. I was like, I have to do this. Like, I want to do this scene. So I was like, please. And I met with Johannes, the director, and he's lovely. A lot of fun. And I just went there and did it.
Had you seen the original movie before agreeing to do the sequel?
Oh, I saw it in theaters.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. The original.
Now,
I did revisit it. I do like the original a lot. I think it's very effective.
A great horror movie. And the sequel as well. Were there any traits that you took from Kip Weeks, the portrayal in the guy in the original, into your character in the sequel?
Like the original, kind of what works so well for the original is that, like, you don't really see the baddies. They're kind of in the background, like a flash and stuff. And when you do see the man in the mask, he's walking or sitting, literally sitting in like one of two scenes, just sitting there. So there wasn't much to go with. I can walk. I've been walking all my life. So, and sitting too. I've done both extensively. So there wasn't, it wasn't much to go to. Not, that's not odd. They all did a wonderful job in that. But so, like that, that's really all there was to it. And it's not Hamlet. So,
I got you. Now, is
like what I liked kind of because originally, like I said, like, this isn't acting, but what I discovered there is the real challenge to doing something like that is trying to find those little moments to kind of make your own and try to bring behavior to it. And then, like in Pray at Night, like there's the most adorable little teensy little arc for the man in the mask. At the pool where he finds he sees Pinup dead and he kind of loses his shit there. So it's just like little stuff like that.
Now,
But,
there are a lot of people out there who think that if you play a character wearing a mask in 95% of a movie, there's real no acting involved. I don't agree with that. There is definitely acting involved. Not every bit of acting is involved in words coming in out of your mouth. There's movements, uh, wearing a mask, and so on. Before starting to do like Haunt and The Strangers, has your opinion on being a masked villain actor changed?
this is how I see it. Is that I mean it varies from movie to movie. Like say you take someone like the Michael Myers thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyone can jump in there and do that, and it'll be fine because he just walks. He doesn't do anything. But you can also get someone who does want to make something of it, and I mean it's the same with any kind of most things. Like that's why there are serviceable actors, there are good actors, and there are brilliant actors. And if you put all of them in one role, any role, if you put a decent actor and a good actor and a brilliant actor in Hamlet, you're going to get three different performances. And when you go see that, if you just go see that serviceable performance, you're not going to be like, oh my, where's all the good acting? Like it's going to be fine. You're not going to know. You're not going to know that you missed out on some brilliant fucking performance until you see the brilliant actor.
Yeah.
That's kind of what is great about theater when you go see so many productions of one piece. Is that you see a lot of bums, and then you see some brilliant stuff. So I mean that's the same thing with the masked thing. Is that because when that started, it was like, who can we fit in this suit to walk around and menace? And it was always some stunt guy getting a little extra pay, and it was not glorious work. They didn't know that conventions would come up and these people would be, championed, and so it was not, it was just like, this isn't, the sexiest thing I'm doing is walking around being a killer. That didn't come until the late '90s. When Fangoria started the conventions. But I mean, it has changed somewhat because now I can see that there was a challenge to it, and that challenge was trying to fit in some behavior and make it a little different and make it my own.
Okay. That makes sense. That totally makes sense. Going back to your childhood, were you a horror fan as far back as when you were old enough to start watching movies, TV shows, and whatnot?
Oh yeah.
What were some of the? What were some
time when I wasn't trying to see all the horror movies?
There was a time when you were not trying to see them?
I don't remember a time.
Okay. Now, growing up,
king horror movies. Yeah.
Now, growing up, what were some of like the horror movies that you saw that left a lasting impact on you?
Definitely say Alien is the first movie that that left an impact on me for a variety of reasons. I mean, the dinner thing, the chest bursting thing. I mean, I was probably like 8, maybe. I don't know. I was behind the couch. I wasn't supposed to be watching. I know that. And Like I was literally hiding behind the couch, peering over. And so that chest burst scene at dinner, I mean, that was serious stuff. I mean, that was amazing, and it was so effective. And I mean, the good thing about that movie, seeing that, is like the acting is really good. Everyone in
Oh
that is
yeah.
really, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
you travel down the VHS shelves of horror in the '80s, you're gonna find more often than not some really bad acting. So Alien's a good place to start. And that was also really notable for me because I really enjoyed Tom Skerritt's character in that. I really enjoyed Captain Dallas in my head because at that time, I mean, he was the hero. I
Mm-hmm.
expected to be there, and so that scene of him in the ducks, muttering to himself, he realizes what a mistake he's made and trying to get the hell out of there. Not that was really it was powerful.
It is. I mean, Alien. I mean, so many great scenes in that movie. But you're right. The chest bursting scene when they're around the dinner table. That's an iconic scene and will remain an iconic scene in horror history. For me, growing up, my first recollection of a horror movie was Halloween, and the opening sequences when you see the camera's perspective going around the house, a hand opening the drawer, picking up a knife, putting on the mask. I think that was maybe 1979 or 1980. I was either 5 or 6. And I remember being terrified. And it's just those kind of memories, I think, is what lead us to becoming these lifelong horror fans. Now, at which point in your life did you say, hey, you know what? I want to give this acting thing a shot?
I don't really know. I mean, I always watch movies and kind of like put myself into them. So, I mean, I watch movies over and over. I mean, I watch Aliens, The Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead, um, Dawn of the Dead. I watched all of these things, and Jaws, just dozens and dozens of times. And I would just envision myself in there as a character. And I don't know that meant anything then. I mean, it really wasn't until high school where I took an acting class because I thought it would just be, pretty easy. I mean, I was interested in the movies and theater, so I thought, I can do this. I'll just spectate. But as a part of that, a part of being in that class, you had to audition for the school musical. So
Oh,
I auditioned for the musical. I auditioned for Little Shop of Horrors, and I was cast as the voice of Audrey 2, the plant. And I mean, I did it. I did it. It was a big hit. I met one of my greatest friends there. I'm still very good friends with today, who works on most of these movies I'm doing. And yeah, I mean, I loved it. I loved theater. I loved doing the theater, even though Little Shop of Horrors, I wasn't technically on stage because I was doing the voice from the pit. But then I went and did Fiddler on the Roof, a bunch of other things, and then I knew then that I was good at it, or I had a raw talent for it. Um, so yeah, from there it was
the rest
it
is
was all
history. Yeah.
a big star. I'm just going to leave this high school and become a huge star, obviously. So that didn't happen, but that's what I thought.
Oh, you're getting there. You're getting there. Uh,
I never really wanted to be a star. I just wanted to act. Just wanted to do.
for you, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, the integrity of the project, independent film, whatnot, is what you bring to a character to bringing them to life on the screen. For me, it sounds like that's what's most important to you. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm trying. It's navigating this whole business here is is kind of tough. So like in the last 3 years since 2018, like 2017 ended and like 2018 kind of became a whole new, life for
Yeah.
me, whole new chapter. Uh, so then opportunities were popping up and such. So I mean, a lot of offers, and the horror genre. There's a lot of people making movies. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of indie films going on. Um, so you want to be a little picky, a little careful about what you do. I mean, I'm just kind of I'm trying to do things I myself would want to watch.
Not
Um, Characters that interest me, like,
exactly.
and it could be the silent killer or some kind of menace or something. I mean, I'm not a snob about that if the film has some merit, if it's cool, if it's exciting to me, absolutely.
Are you afraid with Haunt gaining popularity, The Strangers being popular, you sort of being the guy with all the makeup or wearing a mask? As an actor, do you feel you might be getting boxed into this stereotype you do not want to be boxed into for the rest of your career?
Well, when I agreed to do The Strangers, I mean, I know, being a lifelong horror fan and kind of paying attention to these things, I knew that doing, The Strangers, because I knew, the budget and I knew it was going to be theatrical. So I knew that it would put me in some kind of tier there that like, of being noticed a little bit by the horror fans because, they're awesome. So they really kind of champion the villains a little
Hmm.
more than the protagonist. When I agreed to do Haunt, it was very, I was like, all right, I'm heading down a path here where I'm going to want to mix it up. Otherwise, I'm just going to be, you know, the, the obscure faced villain, and that did come a lot. There was a lot of people messaging me, be like, "Hey, will you be the mass slasher in my movie?" And there was like 80 of those.
Wow.
It was a lot. A couple of student films too. It's like, I mean, I'm flattered. I'm honored. You know, I uh, I gotta break it up a little bit here. I
Yeah.
did this movie called A Nun's Curse. And it was like it had come to me with a whole bunch of others, and I was like, I can't play the killer in your movie. They're like, we just want you to play an asshole. I was like, oh, really? Okay, so well, I could do that. Um, and then Wrong Turn. I started talking to Mike Nelson, and I knew he was doing the Wrong Turn, and he was a big fan of what I did in Strangers Prey Night, or at least he says so. Um, that Mike is way too nice. Uh, so, I mean, I know the Wrong Turn movies, or some of them. Now I know all of them. So I figured, it was another Wrong Turn movie. It was the guy that wrote the original. Alan McElroy was writing this one. So I was like, it's going to be the deform thing. And, I'll want to do it because it's a big movie and whatnot. But I mean, I read the script and it's completely not that. So I was very excited to be a part of a movie of that level. And I loved Mike, loved talking to him, and I loved the domestics and, Matthew Modine, Bill Sage, and all them. So like that was and I did have the mask on in that. But I took it off, and I mean, I think I'm going to be able to mix it up here.
Yeah. Now,
And I'm happy to do it again. There's always rumblings of another Strangers movie, and I really like that group. If it's a cool flick, it's something I like. I definitely do it.
yeah. Now, the Wrong Turn movies have a big, big following. It's a big, you want to call it a cult following, that's fine. They're very popular movies. The one that you did, which came out just recently, earlier this year, it's more of not a sequel, but a reboot of the franchise. Uh, were you told that before you got the script? Uh, that this is not going to be another sequel to the Wrong Turn previous movies, and we're trying to sort of revive the franchise in a way?
I think that let's see. I mean, that was John Wagner was on that one. Um, I think he said it's not what you think. It's not what you think. And then they got me the script, and I mean, I pretty much went in fresh or
Mm-hmm.
blind. So I mean, I had no idea it was going to be that different.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was, but I mean, so I was pleasantly surprised by it. I also knew that it was going to, infuriate people. Um,
Yeah, I know what you mean. The hardcore followers of the franchise.
which, look, I mean, so there was the 6 Wrong Turn movies uh, when we started doing that, and I really liked the first one. I like the second one. It's fun. Joe Lynch. Um, the rest of them, not sure. Could never really figure out how they were getting made. Like, what was justifying them spending money on them? And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was some money. And there's 2 of them which are very kind of porny.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I was announced for Wrong Turn that definitely like my Instagram inbox just started exploding with people from Brazil, all over Latin America, huge Wrong Turn fans. Each one of them the biggest Wrong Turn fan. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, okay. So this is like Road to Terror. I'm so excited for Road to Terror 7. How many fingers will you have? How deformed will you be? And I'm like, well, you just have to wait and see. You're gonna fucking hate it. Um, but like I'd never heard anyone talk about the Wrong Turn. Not
Really,
really.
really, because looking through your resume, and you have a long resume, I would say looking at all the movies you've done, the one that has like the most, I don't know, the biggest following, I would say would be Wrong Turn. I'm not saying that I'm not talking about the movie quality itself. I'm talking about, movie following, franchise followers. And like you found out with your Instagram, there are a lot of Wrong Turn followers out there. To give you an example, my brother is a huge Wrong Turn fan. I'm more like you. The first one was good, the second one was kind of cool, but I'm not as into them as he is.
He's
Uh,
into all.
is he what?
He's into all of them.
He likes the franchise. He thinks they're fun. I'm like, okay. I know he's not alone because I mean the question of the best answer to the question is why is a movie continuing on with all these sequels is because there are people asking for it and there is money to be made in them, whether the script is good, whether the script is bad, as long as it has the name Wrong Turn attached and they give the followers what they want, they know they're at least going to get their money back and hopefully some kind of profit.
I mean, I knew there were some fans, but I mean, it's never being talked about. Like I'm in some of the Facebook horror groups and whatnot. I mean, it's rare someone brings it up. The movies. It's not. It's there's the usual Halloween, Friday 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yeah.
and then the next tier down is uh,
Leatherface?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then you probably drop down a few more, and then you get like the Saw movies,
Yeah.
which. And then you go down further, and there's people talking about like Jeepers Creepers and The Collector, and maybe Strangers, Child's Play. Like never Wrong Turn. They'll talk about Joyride movies before. I'm not. That's why I wasn't. I was like, you guys got some balls making this movie because it's nothing like the other ones. But I was like, I mean, like, I had never really heard too many people talk about it. Certainly not
Oh,
past the first one. So it was adorable to see so many people like furious about the new Wrong Turn. It was just like like the people of the internet, like horror fans. Nobody hates horror movies more than horror fans. So it was just like giving birth to 45-year-old Wrong Turn fans. Like
yeah.
right then, and they were just like, I'm becoming enraged by this movie. Where are the deformed cannibals?
Yeah, I totally get it. Now, going through your past projects, which one did you like shooting the best? I mean, which one did you enjoy doing the best?
Uh, um, that's going to be a tough choice between Strangers and Haunt. Um, Stranger, it's probably going to be Strangers just because that was, I mean, that changed everything for
Mm-hmm.
me. And on a movie that size, I'd never, that was, it was like I don't know, it was crazy. Like,
Yeah.
be going there, and they're trying things on you. Tailor-made suits. And you go in these trailers, and here's people you've seen in other shows and movies, and here's this fucking guy from The Ring, and it was just cool. And I remember first getting to the trailer park, and I was like, oh man, this is like this is incredible. We can just run around and film here, and they were like, they built this.
Wow.
It's built for the movie. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. They brought all these trailers and all this stuff, and someone designed these things and dressed it, and like being on that movie. And I was on there every day. So like, being on that movie, when I wasn't filming, I would walk around like this trailer park, this little town, and like, it was just these kind of like frozen moments of horror.
Yeah.
Like there'd be a truck wedged into a trailer, like a chair with, a lot of these things were deleted, but like blood splatters, and like the truck rammed into a police car. There was just all these things were like left all over this horrible, like frozen town. It was incredible. It was incredible. Food, such a good group of people, and Johannes was such a fun, energetic person to work with. Who knows? Like, he's such a big horror fan. I mean,
Yeah.
don't just run out and play. Just run out and play. Huh? I think we'll add an '80s love ballad here. Just and it was just a good group, and I was really grateful
Would you
to be.
say by far The Strangers is the biggest budget movie that you have worked on?
No, I think Wrong Turn
Really?
probably cost more, and all three of those movies were like I'm talking about The Strangers, but like Haunt, that was like they built that whole Haunt. We're shooting in there on Halloween. The people were great. It was just like I'm getting paid to do this. And this is
This is too much
incredible.
fun.
I think I don't know how much Wrong Turn cost to make, but it wasn't cheap. And that was a fantastic group. I run into fire for Mike Nelson. Hopefully you won't ask me to do that. Johannes did. Um, that was a tough location. That was, location wise, that was a tough shoot because that was in Hocking Hills. It was like on these cliffs, and then the foundation scenes were the underground. It was like in this old subway. We were literally underneath Cincinnati
Wow.
filming this, and that was some money there. I don't know what the budget of that was.
Now, Haunt, it's exclusively available on Shutter, correct?
But you can rent it
Yeah,
elsewhere.
yeah, you can rent it and buy it on all the other video on demand. In my opinion, Haunt is going to be a movie because not a lot of marketing dollars have gone into Haunt so far. So, and that's not just for Haunt. It's true for a lot of movies coming out since COVID started. A lot of studios, distributors are trying to figure out what's the best way to market these movies because before you would go to the movie theater, you would have to sit through 15, 20 minutes worth of trailers, which I loved watching, by the way. You would have TV commercials about upcoming movies and whatnot. And COVID changed so much, and I think the marketing for movies have also changed. And especially now that the timeline for moving a lot of this stuff into the digital streaming at home place, which studios and distributors are still trying to figure out what's the best way to do that. Uh,
Right.
Going back to my point, I think as time passes, Haunt is going to continually to become bigger and bigger and bigger and gain a
Dig it.
larger following. Some people, well, first off, let's start with the title. Uh, do you think a movie like Haunt, the title does it justice?
I think it's a. I mean, I do. In my head, I can't imagine. What else that movie would be called. Um,
That's a good
I think
point.
I mean, I love the title for it, but there are some less than stellar, entries in the subgenre that would make someone perhaps overlook it. I think.
Okay, so you're saying, let's say somebody who is not a fan of paranormal movies and they're going across their Shutter lineup or whatever, video on demand, and they run across this movie called Haunt. Not only
Yeah.
the title, but even reading the synopsis that they have, it really leads you to believe that this movie has some kind of supernatural element to it. When it doesn't, there is no supernatural element. This is all about the evil that exists
Right.
in humans and what their idea of terrorizing and ultimately killing people is all about. Nothing supernatural about it. So I think I know what you mean by the title and how just the title itself might make people go to the next movie on the list if
I
that
think there's like 58 movies titled Haunt too. I mean, it's definitely
yeah.
not the first. Might be the best one. I don't know.
It is. Like I told you, I thought I went into that movie thinking it was paranormal, and it wasn't. And I remember you asking me at the convention, was I disappointed? And I answered, no, absolutely
That's
not.
an excellent sign. I can't imagine. I mean, it's rare to go into something with expectations, and it's something completely different, and you still enjoyed it. I think
Yeah,
that's really it's
it speaks a lot.
very yeah.
It speaks a lot. Now, you mentioned earlier Fangoria's Weekend of Horrors convention. Did you have the pleasure of attending a few of them?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Me too.
First one was I think
Which
1996 was the first one I went to. It was probably the first one they had. It was early on, and that was crazy. I think my brain has sort of maybe distorted it a little bit. Um, So I forgot what hotel that was like. Right in,
Well, what
the,
city did you go to? To which
that was
ones?
New York.
Okay, so you and I went to the same one. We were probably at the same event.
Sure.
Yeah, because I went to Weekend of Horrors every year. The name of the hotel was the Pennsylvania Hotel,
Yes.
right
Yeah.
across the street from Madison Square Garden.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
now the hotel is called something different right now, but it was the Pennsylvania Hotel,
Yeah.
in right across the street from Madison Square Garden.
The ad in
Yeah,
Fangoria is really the only way you could find out about these things.
yeah, and the promoter and the also who was the editor in chief of Fangoria magazine, Anthony Tempone, has
That's right.
become a good friend of mine, and he's been a guest of ours a couple of times already on this show. We talk very often on Facebook. He's a great man. He was the editor in chief of Fangoria, and I told him when he was on my show, I'm like, do you guys realize that, Comic Con did exist when
Yeah.
Fangoria was putting on Weekend of Horrors, but Comic Con back then was exclusively just about comics. It's
Yeah.
not the Comic Con that we have today.
Right.
So Fangoria and its Weekend of Horrors were the pioneers to a lot of the modern day conventions that we have today.
Oh yeah. It was unbelievable. It was just like floors and the vendors. It was like you could never have enough money, and there were people from movies there. Remember, I got Kane Hodder to autograph a Jason Takes Manhattan poster. I was like, this is incredible. I don't even like this fucking movie. But like,
Yeah.
this is great. And Doug Bradley there, and he spelled my name wrong. And
Well, I'll tell you a story about Doug Bradley. We were having breakfast. We went to the Weekend of Horrors in Boston because we loved it. We would travel. I'm from New York City, but we would travel sometimes to other cities to go to Weekend of Horrors. And Doug Bradley was a guest. One morning, we woke up at the hotel, went down to have breakfast, and there he was on the next table eating breakfast by himself.
it's like a
Pinhead,
human being.
Pinhead.
Food.
It's amazing. In those days, man, there were so many great memories, and the guests, like you said, Kane Hodder, Tom Savini. You know what's seared in my memory is listening to Tom Savini talking in New York in the convention hall, and I'll never forget this question. Somebody got up and asked him, "What's the recipe for blood?" I'm like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
What was his answer?
I don't remember what his answer was, but
Gotta read Grand Illusion. That's, gotta read Grand Illusion.
those were some great
That book,
days.
Grand Illusions. I used to my brother owned that book. My brother had a kind of into effects, so he had that Grand Illusion. That was another thing, which like I can't. I don't even remember how old I was. I was like 7 or something. Reading Grand Illusion, Savini's Grand Illusion.
Yeah,
I couldn't stop looking at
yeah.
it. Put Fluffy in there, and him as Ben Franklin, and oh man, it's like that is a stark memory of my childhood. Just going through that book over and over and over.
Tom Savini. When I had Tom Savini as a guest last October on my show, I was just floored. I'm like, here's a man who I met back in the 90s in person as a guest going to these conventions, but I'm a huge Tom Savini fan.
Yeah,
He was a great makeup artist. He has the cameo in Dawn of the Dead. He was the director of the remake of Night of the Living Dead. I had both him and Nicotero on the same show. And it's funny because I spoke to Tony Timpone, who was the editor. I called him in October and I go to Tony, listen, if you can get me Tom Savini, I will get Greg Nicotero, and I want all three of you to go on the show together. And it was just all the pieces fell into place. And that following Monday, I had Tom Savini, Greg Nicotero, and Anthony Timpone. And
wow.
here I was like, holy shit! Here are like the people's whose work I watched while I was growing up. And I'll tell you what, out of all three of them guys, Tom Savini's obviously the oldest, but the dude can kick both of our asses. He's in such an amazing shape. You can never tell he's in his mid 70s.
Well,
So that was cool. Now, in the time that we have left, going forward, uh, do you want to expand out from horror, try different stuff, or are you perfectly content staying within the horror realm?
anytime I try to get a project going or I get involved in something, it's going to be a genre film. It's horror, and I don't really get. I'm obviously incredibly funny, so I could do some comedy. Um, uh, but I mean, I love horror. I'd like to do some theater. Go back and do some theater. I really enjoy that. But I mean, I don't need to. I don't need to get away from horror. You know,
No,
you. I just want to be doing good projects with some. That go on to have a life.
exactly. That's what it's all about. A, be passionate about it, and everything will just fall into place, hopefully, after, you just give it your all, no matter what the project, no matter what the budget.
Back in the day, when someone would refer to someone else as a horror actor, it was like when a horror fan calls you a horror actor, it's a term of endearment.
Hmm.
But when those bastard outsiders, like, oh, he acts in horror.
Yeah, it's sort of
Well,
them looking down.
yeah, he's only good enough for horror. So I think that's changing somewhat.
No, it has. I think it's changed a lot. The top three movies in the last 30 days in the box office that have been making the most money, they're all horror movies.
Well, they always make money. That's the thing too, is that you can look down on it all you want, but they've always been the money maker, and they've
Exactly.
always been the only genre that you can make a movie for very low budget without any names in it, and it can still find a home. Like you
Exactly.
can't comedy or drama or fucking romance, whatever the hell else. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Damien, we are out of time. I can't believe this hour flew by so quickly. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. It's been wonderful talking to you. Got a lot of great information. It was great meeting you in North Carolina as well.
me too.
Let's stay in touch. Any final thoughts you want to share?
No, just thank you for having me on and putting up with me and my shaky camera, my shaky cams, like a found footage interview. Uh, well, yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. Great
No,
questions. Enjoyed it.
absolutely. Thank you. Guys, just a little scheduling note. We were supposed to have Kane Hodder on tomorrow, but that has been changed due to his scheduling issues. We will
You
be back.
scared to follow me. So, yeah.
We'll be back with you on Friday. So stay safe, and until Friday, stay walking. Good night.